Lombardo.
Welcome to On Target Radio, America's voice for the Second Amendment. I'm David Lombardo, and sitting across the council from me is my co-host, Tim Dalen. Say hello, Tim.
We are here.
We are here, and tragedies of the video program notwithstanding, we have more than one camera this time.
Yes, we have more than one camera. We're trying to put cameras on our guests, so if you're watching our video feed at ustream.tv, hopefully we won't make you dizzy flipping back and forth, if we can get them to work.
and I also want to say that we miss the Pinker. He wasn't on in the previous hour. He's always such a good friend and lets us come on, and we miss him. But Illini basketball overran his program.
Yeah, I missed his insults tonight. He always, very good-naturedly, has to throw one my way when we come in, but I love him for it.
Yeah, no, the Pinker's has done a lot to help us.
Yes.
We're here. Tim and I are here every Sunday night at 9 to 10 p.m. talking about all things Second Amendment. We at On Target Radio are shocked at the terrible tragedy that happened in Connecticut this past week, and our prayers go out to the families of the victims. However, we're very disappointed that once again, liberal politicians would use such a horrific event to further their own anti-Second Amendment agenda. Like vultures, liberal politicians once again circle a tragedy, spouting the need for more laws. By one account, that twisted individual broke over 40 laws. What additional law would have prevented Adam Lanza from committing such an atrocity? Mayor Emanuel, you know perfectly well that the demented Adam Lanza in no way reflects the millions of law-abiding citizens who want to be able to protect themselves. While you and Governor Quinn are surrounded by armed bodyguards, you seek to deny the very people you are elected to represent the right to protect themselves from someone just like Adam Lanza. And this in a city where you're unable to control a staggering violent crime rate, putting everyday citizens at risk for just going to dinner on the Magnificent Mile. Mr. Mayor, you are at best disingenuous, because you know full well there isn't one shred of evidence that shows armed law-abiding citizens are in any way a threat to society. And tonight we're going to talk about that right. Tonight we're going to talk about Shepard v. Madigan and Illinois concealed carry. We'll take your questions or comments at 312-642-5600, or go to Facebook, like our page on Target Radio, and ask a question there. In our studio tonight, we have Don Brandt, President of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and Doug Mayhall, First Vice President. And calling in later during the show will be Richard Pearson, the Executive Director of the ISRA, and Walter Maxson, a Chicago-based attorney specializing in Second Amendment issues. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you also. I'm glad to be here.
Let's start with what exactly was Moore and Shepard et al. Versus Madigan. What was that about?
Well, it was a facial challenge to portions of the unlawful use of weapons statute in Illinois. Illinois is the only state in the United States that completely prohibits the carrying of defensive firearms outside the home.
So as a result of that, that went all the way through the Illinois court system and got up to the U.S. Court of Appeals in the 7th District. Is that right?
Actually, it started in the U.S. District Court in Southern Illinois. So it was never in a state court system. It was always in a federal court system.
Okay. So how did that work out?
Well, in the lower courts, the case was dismissed. They said that we were arguing about something that didn't exist, a right to carry a firearm outside the home. The 7th U.S. Court of Appeals found differently. They said that there is a core right to the Second Amendment, carrying a firearm outside the home for self-defense. We'll see. What they did is they found that the law was unconstitutional. Now, this isn't the whole UUW statute. It's just certain paragraphs and sections of the UUW statute that goes to carrying a firearm outside the home. The law has been found to be unconstitutional, but they remanded this thing back to the lower court to issue a permanent injunction against the state for enforcing it, but they stayed that decision for 180 days. So for 180 days, the next 6 months, the law will be enforced just as it always was. Nothing's changed.
So right now, there's no change at all.
Correct.
Okay. What's going to happen? For instance, would Madigan is she likely to appeal this?
Well, she's got a couple of choices. She's got three choices. She could appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court only takes cases that they decide to take. Generally, they'll take cases where there's a conflict between the U.S. Court of Appeals. If the different districts have a problem, they don't agree, then it's more likely that the court will take it up, although that's not a guarantee that they would take it up. She could ask for an en banc review of the appeal or of the Seventh Court of Appeals decision, where the entire court would get together instead of just 3 of the judges or justices. All of the justices on the panel would sit down and do that. Or she could accept the decision as it was written, and we could get the legislature to move on and pass a bill in Illinois that allows concealed carry.
How many justices are there? Wild guess. How many were on this case?
3.
So presumably there's more than 3.
Yes.
We don't have a feel for what the leanings are of them all?
I don't, in my mind, it doesn't make any difference, because this case it's 180 days. She could ask for it. The court could go back and they could extend the stay on their decision. But this isn't the only case that's out there. Moore versus Madigan and Shepard versus Madigan were 2 separate cases that were brought in federal court. At the same time, there's a case that parallels these cases that's before the Illinois Supreme Court right now called Aguilar. And if they get a decision on Aguilar, their only choice at that matter will be to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court if they don't agree with the decision. The best thing for them to do at this point is just move the ball, get the legislature to act, and pass a responsible bill.
I think that's the important thing. She can keep wasting taxpayers' money to keep fighting these things, but with the Heller case, the McDonald case, it's very obvious to everybody that these laws are legal or the laws now are illegal, and we need to get a change to do the Second Amendment as it was written. And at some point we're going to win, but it just takes a lot of money on their part and our part, and we ought to get on with this. And
well, they have a bottomless pit of money.
Yeah, but we're paying for it, unfortunately.
No, I'm talking about the state. The state has a bottomless. Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah,
well, yes, we are.
Take
we
it
pay
from
for
us. So
sure. You're listening to On Target Radio. This is AM 560 WIND, and this evening we are talking about the Shepard v. Madigan case and the resulting possibility for Illinois carry. It looks pretty good. Who was more? Shepard, I think most people know Shepard was the woman who was fully qualified to own a firearm. She was 70-some years old and was literally beaten where she volunteered working in a church. She had a Utah concealed carry, was trained, had a firearm, but couldn't have it with her. But who is Moore?
Michael Moore. He's I believe he's from downstate, but he's not the Michael Moore, the movie producer, obviously. But he's just a private citizen that brought this action. He's supported by the Second Amendment Foundation in his case. The Shepherd case was the plaintiffs in that case were Mary Shepherd and the National Rifle Association, the Illinois State Rifle Association.
Do they then, because of similarity, package them together? Is that how that works, or?
They were originally filed in separate courts with separate plaintiffs, and it's kind of it's almost comical. They had 2 separate cases in 2 separate courts, and they were both moved to the U.S. Court of Appeals. And Lisa Madigan, the Attorney General in Illinois, went to the U.S. Court of Appeals and asked for them to set our case, Shepard versus Madigan, aside and just hold it until they heard more. And they claimed that to argue both cases for them would be a lot of duplication and extra work, and it would cost a lot of money and time. And the court found that if the cases were so much identical that the arguments were duplicates, that they could hear both cases at the same time. And what they did is they sort of combined the 2 cases, but they allowed both cases to keep their individual attorneys and representatives, and so they didn't really combine the cases. They combined it but kept them separately.
Randy asked on Facebook, what are the chances that politicians here in Illinois would appeal the recent verdict on the concealed carry ban? We actually covered that. It wouldn't be the politicians. It would have to be the Attorney General, Lisa Madigan. And we did already talk about that. We're taking your calls at 312-642-5600 or go to the Facebook page On Target Radio. Like us, and you can ask a question there. After this break, we will come back, and we are going to have Richard Pearson with us, who is the executive director of the Illinois State Rifle Association, and we'll be talking with Richard and again with Don Moran and Doug Mayhall about Illinois concealed carry, which appears to be looming on the horizon one way or the other. We'll be right back.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the ChicagoRadioDeals.com Traffic Center.
Good evening. I'm Laura Vaughn. Your Edens Expressway clear, 19 minutes between Lake Hook and the Kennedy Junction. Kennedy mellow, 20 in and out of downtown from O'Hare, 10 back and forth to the junction. No delays on the Ike. 29 minutes in either direction between Thorndale and the old post office. Stevenson is clear, 34 back and forth between 355 and Lakeshore Drive, 24 back and forth to the Tri-State. Dan Ryan, 15 quick minutes in and out of downtown from 95th Street. That's as fast as they go. No delays on the rest of your Illinois tollways or expressways. No delays in Northwest Indiana either. In Chicago on the south side, Damon Avenue is closed, northbound and southbound, north of 83rd Street for a crash. Cloudy overnight with a low of 34. It's 40 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
His call screener has a call screener. The FCC pays him a license fee. His wife tapes his mouth shut because he even talks in his sleep. He is
Steve Cochran, the most interesting talk show host on the radio. He doesn't always tell you what to think, but when he's usually right. Afternoons from 5 to 7 on AM 560 WIND.
Attention firearm owners or those considering exercising your Second Amendment rights. I want to tell you about Illinois Gun Works. From void services and new firearm purchases to gunsmith services and an indoor shooting range, Don and his staff will assist you without attitude or pressure. Need training? Illinois Gun Works' popular Illinois Responsible Firearm Owners class teaches you the regulations to legally defend yourself, own, and transport your firearm. There's a required class for a Chicago firearm permit and popular new shooter familiarization class, including one for women. Now, I took this class and urge you to reserve your spot fast for this fun class. Illinois Gun Works offers a wide selection of training and certification classes, from security work to those just considering ownership, even special group classes. Illinois Gun Works, Chicagoland's full-service firearm headquarters, is located on Grand Avenue, just a block west of Harlem in Elmwood Park. Call 708-452-0040 or visit IllinoisGunWorks.com. That's 708-452-0040.
The bill pay shuffle. You just did it. Can't pay this bill, stall this bill, pay this bill, or else. Shuffling bills, loans, and working overtime are not your answer. Earning more money is, but you have so little time. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com. With a computer and a bit of time and desire, you could be banking serious money from your kitchen table. No home sales parties and no pressure. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com has been helping our listeners for over 10 years. So stop the bill pay shuffle. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com. Listeners, here's an amazing way to earn quit your job money from home. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com wants listeners who want to work from home.
I have to tell you, it's the best decision that I ever made because we replaced my income and my husband's income. This business has allowed us to quit our jobs, and we're both at home and loving it. Best decision I ever made.
They're even giving away $1,000 to someone just for checking them out. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com. IncomeAtHomeUSA.com.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back. Tim and I would like to have you join us at the Gotcha Outdoors Adventure Sports Show Saturday and Sunday, January 5th and 6th in Kankakee. There will be thousands of dollars in prizes and great kids' activities such as archery and shooting slingshots with world record holder and slingshot expert Chief AJ. You won't want to miss the reptile rampage, seeing the live deer, or visiting the huge exhibitor hall with over 70 vendors. There are also lots of informative seminars and great food. Special guests include Spiritual Outdoor Adventures TV host Jimmy Seitz and the Takedown Outdoors Pro staff. Best of all, it's affordable family entertainment with adult admission of only $5, senior $4, kids 7 to 16 $3, and under 6 get in free. Be sure to join the On Target Radio team at the Gotcha Outdoors Adventure Sports Show Saturday and Sunday, January 5th and 6th at the Kankakee First Church in Kankakee. For further information, visit gotchaoutdoors.com or call 815-933-1000. That's 815-933-1000. Tim and I will see you there. Right, Tim?
Yes, we will. We'll be there, and hopefully everybody will come down and say hi and bring us cookies or Christmas candy or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, even though it's after, whatever you have left over from Christmas, bring it down. We'll take care of it for you.
Good cheer indeed. Now, appearing here on this show as a call-in guest, we have Richard Pearson. Richard, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing, this is my third radio program today.
See, it's what happens when you're famous.
Yeah, or infamous.
Or infamous, one or the other. Richard,
I'm getting a lot of love notes from people.
I'm sure you are. Richard is the executive director of the Illinois State Rifle Association. We have a question. If the legislature fails to act on the decision, what happens at that point?
Well, this is a guess, of course, but my guess is that the court will offer another time period in which they can comply. If they don't,
you mean they would essentially give them a pass?
No, they would. It works just like any other court. You give them a couple passes. You know, this will be a lot shorter. Might require a special session, and then if nothing happens, then the court will probably act, and it wouldn't be in the best interest of anybody for that to happen.
Well, the common wisdom, and of course we all know what that's about, but the common wisdom is. People have been telling me with great authority, even though they are not in a position to have any great authority, that if the 180-day mark passes, everybody we talk to says, that's it, we all get to carry concealed, it's over, and we can do anything we want.
That's not true. The court decision addressed only the unlawful use of weapons statute, but it didn't address all the nuances associated with that. Such as, where you can carry, when you can carry, can local governments have authority, so forth and so on. So all that has to be worked out.
See, and this is what I've been telling people. I'm getting this on Facebook. I've gotten phone calls. I mean, you can well imagine. We have people want to sign up to take classes. I mean, everyone is chomping at the bit. But, the concept that at the end of 180 days, suddenly there would be carte blanche for everybody in the state of Illinois to carry a firearm without any training, without any regulations. I mean, it just was very difficult for me to possibly accept that.
Well, most people are thinking about what happened in Arizona. But Arizona had passed a concealed carry law, and then they relaxed the law, but the regulations were all in place. Okay, we're not in that position. We have no regulations, nothing. So that it's not going to happen in the same way.
We have someone on Facebook, Nicholas, who said, how come with the recent tragedy in concealed carry so close for Illinois gun advocates, why is it that they're not speaking out more and trying to educate the public and explain people's rights? It seems that all gun advocates sit quietly in regard to public announcement during these times instead of speaking out. How would you address that?
Well, we've been speaking out. If you got the latest email alert tonight, it talked about the tragedy and so forth and so on. So we have been speaking out about it, but others have been silent on it because they don't know quite what to say at this point because all the facts aren't really there.
So, Richard, you're saying that if somebody who's not an Illinois State Rifle Association member, if they would go to your website, they could read these announcements that you're talking about?
Right. They could even join there.
Yes, they could.
Well, and Richard, as you know, and Don and Doug, as you know, Tim and I are always big advocates of the ISRA. And when we do our seminar, Home Protection Concealed Carry, I'm a life member of the NRA. I know Tim's a member. I don't know if you're a life member, but I know you're a member. But we I'm
a life member of the ISRA.
We always say the one organization that looks out for people who live in the state of Illinois is the Illinois State Rifle Association, and we're always pitching it because for this exact reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the NRA gets involved if there's national implication. But if it's a state thing, they tend to disappear, right?
Well, no, I can't say that they disappear at all.
Well, I don't mean disappear.
I'll say this, Rich. I'll say that if you spend your money with the Illinois State Rifle Association, your money will be invested in your rights in Illinois.
That's right. We probably won't do much for the people in Alaska, but then we don't need to do much for them. They have them all.
And they can hide anywhere. I mean, it's just it's vast wilderness. So here's the other question. And by the way, you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND. We're talking about Illinois concealed carry. Rich, the other question is, what kind of limitations could the state legislature impose on concealed carry?
Well, they would have to put. They could actually propose anything, but it would have to be reasonable, or they'd be back in court. So, but they can they can determine the fees, they can determine the training, all of which we'll have input on, of course. The length of licensing, where you can and can't carry concealed, that sort of thing. All that has to be spelled out in the law.
Now, given that, we know Chicago, Cook County have always been draconian on their gun control laws. Is this going to be a uniform policy across the state of Illinois, or will Rahm Emanuel be able to override it, or will Preckwinkle be able to override it and make up their own rules?
Well, we want a uniform policy across the state of Illinois. If you look at the court decision didn't cut out the city of Chicago. It says every place.
They specifically mention the city of Chicago.
I'm sorry?
They specifically mentioned the city of Chicago.
They use Chicago as an example of why you need concealed carry.
Charles on Facebook said, as someone who travels across the southern tip of Illinois heading east, once the dust settles, how does this affect the way I store my firearm in my vehicle, or carry for that matter, while traveling through your state? He doesn't say where he's from, but the assumption is that he's an out-of-state resident who has a concealed carry permit.
Well, what he's looking for is reciprocity there, and there's a couple interesting things about reciprocity. Of course, we would like to put that in the bill, but also if Illinois, and I should say when Illinois, it's not if, when Illinois gets a concealed carry, then there's a chance that the national reciprocity bill may move also, which would be nice for everybody.
So, and that's in the Congress now, right?
Yeah, it's in Congress, but it's just laying there, not doing anything. But one of the problems, one of the flies in the ointment is Illinois.
I guess when I look at the overall political makeup today in the state of Illinois and in the Congress, I don't understand how this is even happening. I mean, everybody that is in control is dead set against anything to do with firearms. I mean, how are we able to do this?
Well, one thing is the Illinois State Rifle Association absolutely never gives up. Okay, we make a pit bull look like a schnauzer. So, but we sink our teeth in. We're not going anywhere, and so we've been fighting hard. We fight on every kind of front that we can find to fight on. But one of the things that happened a few years ago, Don, and the rest of us asked the membership if we would like to go into the court system and try to litigate our rights. And the membership said yes, and so we've been doing that. And we've been a leader in the United States on court cases. There's no other state organization that's been involved in more court cases than we have.
And that money comes from your membership, is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Which is all the more reason for $25 for 1 year. To me, that's an insurance policy. Anybody that owns a firearm that is not a member of the ISRA, I'm carrying your freight, brother. We're going to be back. Richard, thank you very much for being with us this evening.
All right.
And we will be back with more On Target Radio in just a few moments.
From a looming cliff
The clock is ticking, the year is ending.
to chemical weapons
The use of chemical weapons.
to rising tensions in the Middle East.
Goes worse by worse.
You may think these stories don't affect you,
Every family, everybody here,
but they do.
you'll see your taxes go up on January 1st.
When the hand of God strikes,
Know your world.
the whole world is
The
watching.
world is watching.
The world is looking at us.
Check in for news updates twice an hour, all day long.
Definitely pay attention.
On AM 560, WIND.
Fox News Radio, I'm Jane Metzler. After meeting individually with families and first responders, President Obama speaking at an interfaith vigil mourning the victims of Friday's school massacre in Newtown, Connecticut.
Scripture tells us, do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away.
The president also noting this country is not doing enough to protect our children.
We can't tolerate this anymore. These tragedies must end. And to end them, we must change.
The first funeral for one of the murdered first graders, 6-year-old Noah Posner, is tomorrow. His twin sister, who was in another class, survived the massacre. Gunman Adam Lanza's first victim, his mother Nancy, shot several times in the head. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the ChicagoRadioDeals.com Traffic Center.
Good evening. I'm Laura Vaughn. No delays on our expressways and tollways. The travel times are rather sweet. Eden's running 19 minutes in either direction between Lake Cook and the Kennedy Junction. Kennedy 20 in and out of downtown from O'Hare, 10 back and forth to the junction. Eisenhower 29 minutes in either direction between Thorndale and the old post office. Stevenson 34 back and forth between 355 and Lakeshore Drive, 24 back and forth to the Tri-State. Dan Ryan, 15 minutes in and out of downtown from 95th Street. No delays on the rest of our expressways and tollways. In Lisle, there's a crash now at Route 53 south of Maple Avenue. Cloudy for the overnight hours with a low of 34. It's 40 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
Chuck's Gun Shop proudly serves Riverdale and the surrounding communities. Conveniently located near the 142nd Street exit of the Bishop Ford Expressway, Chuck's Gun Shop is staffed by friendly, skilled professionals who will help guide a first-time shooter and assist you in obtaining a State of Illinois firearm owner's identification card. Chuck offers a full line of new handguns, rifles, shotguns, knives, and accessories. Chuck's also buys, sells, and trades used firearms and has a gunsmith on location that will provide expert care for your favorite firearm. Chuck's features a 6-lane indoor shooting range. Bring your own firearm or rent one from their wide assortment. If you live in Chicago, Chuck's Gun Shop offers the required Chicago firearms permit course. Chuck's Gun Shop is open Monday through Saturday and located at 14310 Indiana Avenue in Riverdale. Visit their website, chucksgunshop.net, or call 708-849-4455. That's 708-849-4455. Chuck's Gun Shop, serving Riverdale and surrounding communities.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a SelectQuote agent with a true story of how SelectQuote goes to bat for you buying term life insurance. A while back, a man called me who had had prostate cancer. He asked if I could beat a very high quote another life insurance agent had given him. I said, let me see. Well, I took his pertinent information, then shopped the highly rated, price-competitive companies we represent, and found one who pre-approved him for a premium way below what he had been quoted. When it comes to term life insurance, no other company touches SelectQuote's experience and expertise in finding the right policy at the right price for almost anyone. How about you?
For your free quote, call 1-800-949-1130. That's 1-800-949-1130. 1-800-949-1130. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save.
We now return to On Target on AM 560 WIND. If you have a question or opinion, the studio line is 312-642-5600. Now, here's your host, firearm expert and educator, David Lombardo.
We're back with more On Target Radio, and Bill from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. What have you got to ask, Bill?
Okay. We have now a concealed carry permit in the state of Wisconsin, I guess as of last year. If I do not have a concealed carry permit myself and I shoot an intruder breaking into my home at night, what's my legal exposure?
Well, Bill, unfortunately, we're not attorneys and you live in a different state. So, I mean, I wouldn't even hazard a guess. And an attorney, you would make him cringe asking that question unless you were paying probably about $100 an hour or more. So it isn't something we can really answer. But if that's a serious question, you really should consult an attorney in your home state. Don, you agree with that?
Appreciate it. Thank you for a good show.
You are more than welcome. Thank you very much for listening. And now it's that magic moment, that time when Tim will do his Fighting Back segment. And after this, we have a very special moment coming up.
A very special moment. A gunman walked into a Sunoco gas station in Ohio last week, pointed a gun at two workers, and demanded money. One of the responding police officers after the fact said it was just your normal robbery, give me money. It was normal, that is, just until the suspect got behind the counter while confronting the victims, and the victims pulled their own guns, a .40 caliber handgun and a shotgun. The victims fired multiple shots at the suspect during the course of the robbery, resulting in the bad guy's death. One regular customer of the gas station said, "Everybody knows they have guns. That's why I was surprised someone tried to rob them. It doesn't make sense. This is not the best neighborhood." This is a perfect example of the good guys fighting back. And one other thing, I just read this morning where a business owner in New Zealand is asking the government to allow the employees of his armored car business to carry firearms. You see, in New Zealand, it isn't legal for a security guard or even most police to be armed. His drivers have been held up at gunpoint 36 times this year. Armored cars delivering money to banks. You've probably heard the anti-gunners in this country spouting the gun owners saying of, if you take away guns, only the bad guys will have guns. Is old, tired, and not true. The anti-gunners say that all the time. Yeah, right. Ask New Zealand how that's working for them. This has been Fighting Back, brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association.
I think there's a message in there somewhere. And now, we would like to present Doug Mayhall, who is the first vice president of the Illinois State Rifle Association, who is filling in as our announcer to read a commercial. Doug?
Okay, for over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport, for personal protection, and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. That's 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association is supporting you.
You realize you don't get paid for that.
Oh, gee.
Thank you. That's very good. Well, it looks like we got a new announcer, Tim.
All right.
Yeah.
I can go home.
There you go. Becky from El Paso, Illinois wants to know something about if you need a special permit. Becky?
Yes, I was wondering if you're in your car and you're in Illinois and you're going to, let's say, Las Vegas on vacation, would you be required, if we do get concealed carry here in Illinois, would you be required to have a permit for every state that you go across to get to Vegas?
Well, here's the thing. You can transport under federal law, and you guys jump in if you want, but under federal law, you can transport a firearm from any place where you can be in legal possession to any other place where you can be in legal possession and no intervening jurisdiction can stop you. But here's the caveat. Number one, it has to be unloaded, encased, and locked and inaccessible. And the second thing is, if you step out of your car, like to stop for the night somewhere in a hotel, if you get out of your car and bring the gun with you, now you're under the jurisdiction of the local authority. As long as it stays in that situation in the vehicle, it's in transit. Does that, anybody have anything to add to that? Gets real quiet on the other side of this thing.
As I understand it, that's correct.
Right. So, Becky, I think that should answer your question, yes?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we also had a comment from Nicholas on Facebook, and the comment was he wants to know what the position is on training. Is there going to be a minimum number of hours? What are we anticipating?
There is going to be training involved in whatever bill passes. I'm pretty certain of that. It's I think that we'll probably see it be 8 hours or less, including some range time.
And I think that's pretty much what everybody assumes, is it not? From the things that I've seen, I've never seen any proposed training program that was like really draconian. It all seemed fairly reasonable.
That would be reasonable.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
I've seen proposals that were much more stringent than that.
Oh, seriously? But they didn't get traction, did they?
I hope they don't. It's but I mean, there's always a possibility somebody will throw in an amendment and try and get something in there. But
that's true. That always can happen. John on Facebook, we've got. In fact, we don't have any time left.
We'll come back to John.
We'll come back to John. We'll be back after these messages with more On Target Radio. You're listening to AM 560 WIND, and our subject this evening is Illinois concealed carry.
Yes, it is.
The latest traffic every 15 minutes from the ChicagoRadioDeals.com Traffic Center.
Good evening. I'm Laura Vaughn. Your expressways and tollways moving quite well, although we do have a disabled vehicle, a breakdown. On the inbound Dan Ryan just before Cermak Road, blocking the right lane. Your Dan Ryan still a quick 15 minutes in and out of downtown from 95th Street. All clear on the Edens. 19 back and forth between Lake Hook and the Kennedy Junction. Kennedy, 20 in and out of downtown from O'Hare. 10 back and forth to the junction. Eisenhower, 29 minutes in either direction between Thorndale and the old post office. Stevenson, 34 back and forth between 355 and Lakeshore Drive. No delays on the rest of the expressways and tollways. In Lisle, still watching this crash at Route 53 south of Maple. Cloudy overnight with a low of 34. It's 40 degrees. Next update in 15 minutes on AM 560 WIND.
For 35 years, Pelcher's Shooter's Supply has served the Lansing area. Pelcher's offers new and used firearm sales, appraisals, and gunsmithing service. Pelcher's new spacious showroom has hundreds of major brand firearms and supplies, and PelcherGuns.com features daily specials. Pelcher's Shooter's Supply on the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Street in downtown Lansing. Online at PelcherGuns.com or call 708-474-0662.
If you want to work until you drop, reduce your standard of living in retirement, or lose more of your hard-earned money in the stock market, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to generate a steady, predictable income, I'm talking real wealth and financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. A free report is now available that reveals the money-making secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. This report reveals how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your hard-earned money in the Wall Street casino. How you can bypass banks and credit cards and become your own source of financing, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. And it beats the pants off any IRA or 401k. To learn more about this method and to get your free special report, visit bankonyourself.com right now. That's bankonyourself.com. www.bankonyourself.com.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
From Walmart.
We wish
Cousin Sean would stop sticking his fingers in the Ready Whip Dairy Whip topping.
We wish
his sister Janelle would stop eating all the yummy Pillsbury Crescent rolls.
And a Happy New Year
to Uncle Luther as he gobbles down the Nestle Toll House morsels. Walmart has everything you need for a great Christmas meal, backed by our ad match guarantee. Our stores will match the price of any local competitor's printed ad for an identical product. Not applicable to Walmart.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we have on the line Walter Maxim. Walter is a Chicago-based attorney specializing in Second Amendment issues. Walter, how are you doing this evening? You are recovering from surgery, yes?
Yes, but I'm glad to be with you. It's I've been going stir crazy here in rehab, but doing good.
Well, we're glad to hear that you're doing well. I have a question that I've been wanting to ask you. Now that I have you on the phone, here we go. With this whole UUW being basically going to change, is that going to have any effect on pending charges and particularly on past convictions?
Well, it most certainly will. As a matter of fact, I have a case that was ready to go to trial. We'll go to trial in February in DuPage County, and it's a simple case where someone with a FOID card had a gun in his automobile, was charged with felony for having a gun in a loaded gun in public, and all he did was he had a magazine in the compartment near the gun, and I moved to dismiss on the exact charges, this exact same grounds as in Shepherd. The court denied it. I'm sure the court will have to go along now and dismiss the case, and so it's the difference between being a felon and not a felon, because the statute prohibiting any type of carry or having a loaded gun is now unconstitutional, or will be as soon as the opinion goes into effect. So yes, and then also there are a number of convictions, of course, under the current UUW laws, and I would think that anyone who has a conviction would be able to move to have it vacated. Anyone convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor would be able to petition a court and seek to have their conviction vacated and to be in effect to have a clear record.
What happens to an individual who's incarcerated as a result of that type of a charge?
Same exact thing. I mean, this is going to have a sweeping effect, I would think, across the board. Anyone who's serving a sentence would be able to come out, and I would also think that they may have an action for being illegally, a civil rights action under Section 1983 for having been illegally imprisoned and punished. And so that's going to make for a lot of very interesting litigation, I would think.
That could open up a real Pandora's box, couldn't it?
Well, certainly could, and there's not a lot of case law on it, but there are cases where where the convictions, you cannot have a criminal conviction if the statute under which you have been convicted has been declared unconstitutional.
You're listening to AM 560 WIND. This is On Target Radio, and we're talking with Walter Maxim, a Chicago-based attorney specializing in Second Amendment issues. Walter, the federal case that's pending challenging the city of Chicago's gun registration and possession, use of guns and all of that, is that going to be at all affected by this?
I'm sorry, what is going to be?
I'm sorry, talk too fast.
Can you repeat that? Repeat the question, please?
You have a federal case pending challenging the city of Chicago's gun registration and possession?
Yes, I have that pending as of the moment, and we're challenging, and the case has been upheld. My complaint has been upheld in federal court against the city of Chicago. The new gun law that was enacted by the city after its ordinance was declared unconstitutional in the McDonald case has a number of restrictions, particularly restrictions that allow you to only have a registered gun in your home. And it specifically denies you to have possession in an area of your own property, not only in public, which now would be unconstitutional, but upon what is called your curtilage, which is an area of property that is in and about your own home. In other words, not just in your house or apartment, but your gangways, your patio, your porch, your
attached garage,
etc. So yes, there are a number of provisions that are intertwined with this particular issue, and we feel very good. As a matter of fact, I'm amending the complaint for refiling, and we're going to be raising the Shepherd case as additional grounds for knocking out the rest of the remainder of the city's overreaching gun ordinance.
It would appear that this is going to have a somewhat of a flattening effect across the entire state. Then I live in the southwest suburbs, and it's a predominantly conservative area, and firearm ownership isn't really questioned. It appears that one of the effects of this is going to take that and sort of flatten it across the entire state, where even in Chicago you're going to be okay. Is that a reasonable thing to say?
Well, absolutely, because for years I've made this argument, and especially in Cook County and the northern counties, the courts have sort of looked at me like I've had three eyes. But now things have come to pass, and the law has totally shifted with Heller and McDonald, and the Seventh Circuit's decision, Ezel, and now this particular case, Shepard. So the courts have to follow the precedent, and they do. I've been batting 100 in even Cook County. I've had cases thrown out in other counties throughout the state. So, good judge has to follow the law. It has to uphold the constitutional rights. And I've had I've settled a number of cases and pursued a number of cases, civil rights cases with individuals who have been wrongly prosecuted for having lawful possession of a firearm.
Okay, Walter, we got to take a break, but thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
How about something unique and meaningful for this season's gift list? Give a special gift card, one that supports Israel. Go to holylandcharities.com and help Israeli causes with your gift giving this year. Give with your heart as well as your soul. With holylandcharities.com, you make the donation and your gift recipient gets to pick the charities from a choice of 10 social welfare causes doing good works in the land of Israel. Powered by Charity Choice, making lives better, helping others through 100% tax-deductible charitable giving. Give the Holy Land gift card and do kindness for those in the Holy Land, regardless of culture, race, or religion. There are even cute $2 and $5 stocking stuffer cards available. Order e-gifts, physical cards, or post on Facebook. This is certainly the most meaningful gift your friends and family will receive this year. Charity Choice, when meaningful matters, at holylandcharities.com. That's holylandcharities.com.
You're listening to On Target on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
We're back with more on I'm going to try this in English. It's easy for me to say. We're back with more On Target Radio. Don, we only have a few minutes left here, but the Chicago aldermen, several of them, have come out with a statement saying essentially that we're going to pass whatever we want. We're not going to allow this. Let them take us to the Supreme Court. Have you heard that?
I have heard that. I've seen on the press conferences and such that where the aldermen have stated that. And what I would caution them is that if they continue to thumb their nose at all these federal court decisions like they did in Ezel and what they're threatening to do again, that they should consider that last year we held a legal symposium at John Marshall Law School in the city where we brought together Section 1983 civil rights attorneys with Second Amendment attorneys. If they're purposely circumventing people's civil rights just for the sport of circumventing people's civil rights and defying a court decision in the hopes that we'll just litigate it and take it to the Supreme Court, I think they should consider what the implications are if someone were to file a Section 1983 suit against them personally.
You could actually target specific aldermen?
If they've made public statements and said that that's exactly what they're doing, is they're circumventing people's civil rights on purpose, I think they open themselves up to litigation and personal liability.
What? Doesn't that just turn the heat up?
I wish you wouldn't have told them that.
Well, I mean, basically, they're cowardly. They hide behind the shield of being an alderman behind the city. If you can actually begin to target individual by individual, I guess what? The city covers their legal fees, but the city's broke.
I'm not sure that the city should even be covering their legal fees unless they were to win the case.
And ironically, they're able to carry guns now because of their position.
Exactly. A lot of people don't know that, but the Chicago City alderman can carry concealed firearm.
Right.
Or Chicago politicians that work for fake scam private security companies.
Well, thank you, Tim. That was certainly an indirect response, wasn't it? David on Facebook said, with the president today saying that he would do everything legal in his hands in the next couple of weeks to address the violence problems, what can we expect? We only have just a short period of time here, about a minute, but not much, I would assume.
I don't legally, I don't know what he could do. I mean, he could issue an executive order of some sort, and that could be challenged. I don't believe that that the wherewithal is there to pass sweeping legislation through both houses of Congress. I think the things that need to be addressed, mental illness, treatment of mental illness, stigma related to mental illness, security of our schools is atrocious. Something needs to be done about the security of our schools.
They never address those issues. It's always about guys who own guns legally.
You know, it's like fighting terrorism. You know, they could make 1,000 attempts, and if they're successful once, they win. And you know, people that want to prey on schools, they're gun-free zones. No one can protect themselves there, and they're
exactly. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. We certainly appreciate it. Don Moran and Doug Mayall. Thanks to Richard Pearson and Walter Maxim for calling in. Thanks to Robin Zeeland, our call screener. Our new Jack Deiters, our intern. We have our new intern.
Go, Jack.
There you go. Tim Montague, our tech consultant. George Hoffman on the board. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Illinois Gun Works, Chuck's Gun Shop, Pelcher's Shooter Supply, Illinois State Rifle Association, our website developer, 31 Moons, our new sponsor, Gotcha Outdoors Adventure Sports Show, and, of course, Safer USA. Next week, Close Quarter Defensive Tactics with Nick Faruqi and Barbara Ellers of the Ballistic Fighting Methods. You gotta tune in for that one. Until then, from Tim and I, Tim, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on the live channel.
And we hope that you'll be back next Sunday at 9 p.m. for more On Target Radio. And thanks, Mike, for making it all possible.
Thanks for having us on, Tim and David.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Doug. Thanks, Don, for coming.
Hello?
Hi, is this Steve Bostic?